This is the Gutsy Health Podcast with Janique and Tristan Roney. Guys, welcome back to the Gutsy Health Podcast.
Hey, everyone. We are very, very excited about this podcast. Actually, here's a fun story. When we first got started with our clinic on accident, we got a Hocket, and it's this ozone sauna, and we knew nothing about it. In fact, the company we bought it from didn't have a whole lot of information for us.
No, they didn't.
So we started looking around, trying to figure out where we could learn more about this. And the best resource we actually came across was this clinic down in Florida, I think. And this guy, Dr. Minkoff, just had so much fantastic information about it.
Like, he was a freaking genius.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh my gosh, this guy is onto something. He has all of these resources and all of this information. It like blew our mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and this is like when we're like fresh, right?
Yeah,
Fresh
this was
clinic.
years ago.
3 years ago, yeah.
And now here we are. We actually have him on the show
to
do an interview, and we are really, really excited about it. So we want to welcome Dr. David Minkoff. Welcome.
Welcome.
Thanks, you guys. I lived in San Diego for a long time. That's where you said you are, right?
No, we're in Utah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're in Utah.
I
Okay,
wish
sorry.
we're in San Diego.
We're in the mountains of Utah where it's about to get really cold for a while.
Okay. Yeah, fun to talk to you guys. I'm excited to see what we do today.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. You do Ironman triathlons. How did you start your clinic and your practice? Because it is huge and you have your own product line. How did you birth this baby that you have now?
When I finished medical school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I went to the University of Wisconsin, and I thought I would do a rotating internship so I could delve into a little bit more of the four major areas of medicine. You know, did I want to be a gynecologist? Did I want to be a pediatrician? Did I want to do internal medicine? Did I want to do surgery? So the way the program was set up was of 3 months of each. Mm-hmm. And I was hoping by the end of that year that I'd know what I wanted to do.
Right.
And the program was in San Diego, UC San Diego. And the first rotation was pediatrics. And after 2.5 months, the head of the program said to me, you know, you'd be a really good pediatrician. Why don't you switch from a rotating internship and do pediatrics? Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, I did. I then did 2 more years of pediatric residency. I was chief resident there for a year.
Wow.
And then at the end of that period, I didn't know what I wanted to do either. And one of the guys in the infectious disease department said, you should do pediatric infectious disease because it'll give you sort of a very good background to infections, and kids get infections, and so you'll know what you're doing. So yeah,
that would be
I
really
did a
cool.
2-year fellowship in infectious disease. The program at UC San Diego was a program where we did both adult and pediatric infectious disease. Mm-hmm. And this was the late 70s, early 80s. The AIDS epidemic had just really started. And so and also there was this Hmong population from Southeast Asia that had all arrived in San Diego County. And there were tons of exotic infections, parasitic infections, and just weird stuff. And it was sort of a very interesting place to be because we were seeing things that you normally would never see.
Yeah.
So I did that. And part of my fellowship was to do research. And I was involved in what's now called ribavirin. It was one of the first antiviral drugs. Mm-hmm. And I published a paper on that. And the drug eventually became successful with some of the work that we did.
Amazing.
I had 3 kids at the time. And as a pediatric resident and in a fellowship, the salary was like $16,000 a year. And I couldn't make it.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
So I started moonlighting in emergency rooms. And there was an emergency room about an hour and a half outside of San Diego. It was over in a place called Brawley, California, mm-hmm. which is the lettuce belt of the United States. Mm-hmm. And there was a hospital there, and the shift was a 9 on Friday night to 9 on Sunday morning. So it was 36 hours.
Gosh.
Wow.
And it was Brawley is right near a huge RV park, mm-hmm. where on a average holiday weekend, there would be 70 to 75,000 people out there on 4-wheelers, motorcycles, plenty of liquor, And so the emergency room would just be stacked with
really
people
busy. Yeah.
who had like really serious injuries. And when I started it, I didn't really know what I was doing with trauma medicine, but there was a Green Beret guy who had been a Green Beret for 9 years in Vietnam, and he was a nurse and a medic, and he knew trauma medicine. So he taught me trauma medicine in the ER with, people with, broken everythings and chest tubes and you name it. So I got good at it and I liked it. And then eventually, when I finished the fellowship, went into practice in San Diego County doing pediatrics in the office and infectious disease in the hospital. And I did that for about 10 years. And then we decided to move our family to Florida. And I was looking around for places to work. And I got recruited by an emergency room here and actually started doing full-time emergency medicine.
Oh.
Along that time, my wife, who's a nurse and has a degree in medical microbiology, she got interested in natural medicine.
Very cool.
And started going to seminars. And I wasn't really very interested in it. It just seemed like it was a little bit woo-woo. And I was a medical doctor, and I'm a scientist, and I'm have specialties in multi areas. And then one day she said, there's this really good guy coming to town. His name is Jeffrey Bland. He looks real smart. And why don't you come and spend the afternoon with me and let's listen to him. And so I went, and Jeffrey Bland is really the father of functional medicine. He's not a medical doctor. He's a PhD biochemist, but he's one of the smartest guys in the world. And he was able to kind of integrate nutrition and health and optimization and biochemistry in a way that's really interesting and really smart. And it really kind of made sense to me.
I love it.
And then we just got interested in it. So we would go to all kinds of seminars, and we had some friends. One of the things that we did was learn how to do chelation therapy, which is a way to give an IV medicine to get the mercury, arsenic, cadmium, lead out of people's bodies. Because through our environmental exposure, we get exposed, we get all this stuff in us, and it causes problems.
Yes.
And we had a few friends who had history of heart disease at young ages, their fathers had, and they wanted us to do chelation therapy. And so my wife has a home health care nursing business, and there was an empty room in that office, and we decided that we would do these IV treatments on people and help them to prevent heart disease. And there was 4 of them, and we did the chelation. And about that time, I got interested in heavy metal toxicity, and I did a course on that from a guy in Seattle. And I came back and started to do more, started to attract more people who were interested in a non-traditional approach. And I was doing it part-time. My wife was a nurse there. We had a nurse practitioner. And the practice just like really mushrooms. Somebody had migraines and she got better, and somebody had ulcerative colitis and she got better, and rheumatoid arthritis and she got better. And pretty soon we rented the space next door and we renovated it. That was 3,000 square feet, and then that got too small. And then we moved to the place where we are now, where we have 3 buildings and a huge practice.
Amazing.
And mostly what we're dealing with now is people who have sort of serious chronic illness, neurological things, Lyme, cancer, autoimmune disease. And so people come from all over the world because we have an array of treatments and diagnostics that very few clinics have. And so we've been at it now for about 20 years. And it's really fun and it's really interesting, and we help a lot of people.
Awesome.
Along the way, about 10 years ago, I did a course in ozone therapy from the father of ozone, his name is Frank Schallenberger. He's in Carson City, Nevada. I did his course, and I got really enthralled with the possibilities of ozone.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started to then, as part of the course, you had to do some practicals where you had to treat so many people and send in evidence that you knew what you're doing, and then get fully certified. And I got certified. And so started to do like a lot of ozone. And we did Prolozone, which is injecting ozone into joints and soft tissue areas where there's pain.
Mm-hmm.
And we started putting it into bladders for people who have like interstitial cystitis, and chronic bladder pain. And we got one of the original HOCATs and started using ozone. It's a mixture of ozone in a steam sauna with infrared light and microcurrent. And the patient acceptance of that treatment was just extraordinary. So now we have 4 of them. I don't think there's any other clinic around that even has 2. So we do tons of this from 9 in the morning till late in the afternoon. We also do a lot of IV ozone in different ways. Sometimes it's with ultraviolet light. Sometimes it's with some medical dyes. But we find that it really makes a difference in lots of different problems. It's sort of one of those basic antidotes for whatever's wrong with you. It makes athletes run faster, and it makes sick people
feel better,
get over their infections and their fatigue.
That's what we have found, because we love utilizing the Hocket ozone sauna in our office. And we actually want to buy a second one because it's just so effective. And what's really amazing, and I'd like you to expound more on like the science of ozone and how it works, because, the fact that you're injecting it, you're using it transdermally, people are in your Hocket from morning till night. You have 4 of them. We have seen miracles. I don't want to say miracles, but we have seen miracles happen with the transdermal ozone. We have seen people get better faster. Like you said, people recover faster, athletes perform better. What is it about ozone that is so special? Because we've spoken about this in previous podcasts, but I love that you were a very cerebral doctor who was like, okay, natural health is woo-woo, and yet somehow became convinced through science that no, there is absolutely something to these therapies. There's absolutely something to ozone. There's absolutely something to like chelation. What was it about ozone that attracted you and made you want to get 4 Hockets and do IV ozone and, Prolozone and all of that?
Well, really, it's the patient response, like you said, it's just really high. I mean, about 80%, I really started with ozone before I got the Hocket, was doing Prolozone, where you inject ozone into joints. And I would have people who had chronic long-term back pain or knee pain or neck pain. And in 4 to 6 treatments, 80% of the patients that I saw had extreme alleviation of their pain or no pain.
Yeah.
And they would refer people. And so I was doing like tons, thousands of people per year who would come in with pain, and I would treat them. And then I met the guy who was the guy who put the Hocket together, and he came to our clinic and he said, really, you should do this. It's wonderful. And we started to do it. And we don't even advertise it really. The patient word of mouth on how good it is just basically fills up the machines. And so we had 1, and then we had 2, and then we had 3, and now we have 4. And I don't have any more room for more, but they're occupied all day long, and patients love it. And we usually do 2 a week among all the other ozone that we use for patients, and they like it.
I love that.
Ozone is really an interesting, when I talk to patients and I say, have you ever heard of ozone? They say, oh yeah, the ozone layer.
Yeah. Yep.
So okay. The ozone, the air that we breathe is O2, and about 18 or 20% of the air, depending on where you live, is O2, and we breathe it, and it allows our bodies to live. But ozone is O3. Now the ozone layer occurs because the O2 in the upper atmosphere, when it gets hit by lightning, the O2 molecules split apart into 2 O1s. And O1s are very unstable. They won't exist for more than a millisecond.
Mm-hmm.
And they will either recombine with another O1 to make an O2, which is very stable, or they will jump on an O2 and form O3,
Yep.
which is what ozone is. So it's three oxygen molecules. It's a charged particle, so it's an ion. It has a negative charge on it.
Mm.
Now, most of the contaminants that are in the atmosphere and that are in our body, environmental toxins, most of them have a positive charge.
Mm-hmm.
Heavy metals have a positive charge.
Yep.
So if you put together an O3 minus with a plus, you can cause it to bind. And so ozone is good as a detoxifier. It will bind with things and neutralize them.
Mm-hmm.
With all this COVID stuff going on, we have a lot of ozone machines in our office, which work on the air.
Mm-hmm.
They put ozone into the air because it's a good purifier and it will kill viruses.
Yep.
We use it in our home too, just mostly when we're not there, because ozone breathes is kind of irritating. But when you're not there, you turn the ozone machine on and it clears the air of odors and of virus and other types of particles.
Yep.
So that's one of the things it does. The other thing that ozone does is it's able to improve mitochondria. So mitochondria are the area in the cell where energy is made. And the way energy is made is that one of the B vitamins called niacin can shuttle electrons from one thing into something else. And that's how we get energy.
Yep.
And ozone resets this balance of NAD and NADH. This is the B vitamins, vitamin B3.
Mm-hmm.
So that it's available to pick up energy when the body makes it.
Yep.
And most of us, the ratio isn't optimized. And so the process is slow.
Mm-hmm.
So if the NAD is not ready to get an NADH, if the NADH is still stuck on there, it can't take a new particle to make energy.
Right.
And ozone resets that. It's supposed to be about 600 to 1. And so you see people get more energy and you see their brain and their kidneys and their livers function better because the cell can actually make energy better.
Exactly.
And in athletes, it can make a huge difference. Like all you're giving in this person is O3. You're giving them ozone.
Yeah.
When I first started this, I decided one of my hobbies is to do Ironman triathlons. Mm-hmm. And I work out on devices where I can track, like on a bicycle, like how many watts of power I can generate at what heartbeat. And I can get a good, I had a good idea of what my capabilities were. Mm-hmm. So before I started taking the ozone, I did a test where I worked at just below my anaerobic threshold, which is the amount of energy that my body could generate without going into cramps and muscle spasms. It's something I could hold for a while. And my anaerobic threshold was 162 beats per minute on my heart. And I did a test for half an hour at 158. So it's near threshold, but I could hold that for hours. And I kept track while I was doing it of the amount of watts that I was generating on the bike and what my heart rate was. So my heart rate's 158. I was doing 200 watts of power on my bike. And I did it for 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I then did 10 ozone treatments. This was called major autohemotherapy. It was, you take blood out, you add ozone to it, you put it back in. Mm-hmm. And then I did the test again. I did a half hour. And I found that now my heartbeat at 200 watts was 137 beats per minute instead of 158 beats per minute.
Amazing.
Wow.
Now that is a huge difference.
That's ginormous.
And when I kicked it up to 158 beats per minute, I was doing 215 watts versus 200 watts, which is a huge difference. It's a big time difference in a race if you can average 15 watts of power more than you did before. So that's impressive.
I love that.
Oh, yeah. Ozone actually also, it helps with the antioxidant system. So it detoxifies, it improves energy, it helps with antioxidants, and it's healing. It triggers a healing response. So if you take someone with a wound, with a flesh wound, and say you put them in the Hocat, the healing will occur much faster. The skin will regenerate much faster.
Yep.
I think that's what happens when you put it in bladders and put it in joints. It turns on a new healing cycle that the cell can then fix what's wrong.
And my question is, because people are always asking before they start their treatments in the Hocket, they're like, well, what can I expect from this? And what I have found is that the body prioritizes different things in different people. So some people that are overstimulated, it will help to calm their nervous system, right? So that they sleep better. Some people that are extremely fatigued, they are now energized afterwards. And it's probably because the body and the cells are prioritizing different systems that are lacking in function. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think you're totally right. And so,
go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
So each person has a different experience. And then with the Hocket, we start people low, because when they first get exposed to ozone, we don't want them to get too much reaction.
Exactly.
The ozone will kill bacteria. It will kill viruses. So if this person has a big load of mycoplasma or Lyme or,
yes,
chickenpox or other viruses, it's going to take them out.
Right.
And you can get a die-off reaction. So we usually start them at low concentration and low heat. The Hocket it's an ozone sauna, so it's a steam sauna. So as they get more tolerant to it, we go up. I mean, some people like it at maximum heat and maximum ozone.
Yep.
And but I wouldn't start someone at first, because I don't want to kind of produce an alarm response in their body from the treatment.
Right.
I want it to be all on the good side.
Exactly. So my question for you is this, because I've only had 2 people ask me this question, and it's such a good question, and I'm so impressed when they do. Ozone is antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal, right? How does it not kill the good guys? Because it kills everything. But how is it selective, or is good bacteria, does it interact differently with ozone? What would you say to people that are asking those questions?
Our own cells have in the cell membrane an enzyme which is called peroxidase, and is able to neutralize ozone. So if ozone is comes in as a free radical, it's neutralized by the peroxidase, and so it's not harmful to our cells. It actually goes in as oxygen. Whereas bacteria and viruses don't have peroxidases. So when they get hit by it, it's like a peroxide. It's like a disinfectant.
Yeah.
And it causes reactions. Now, most likely, our white blood cells, our neutrophils, when they surround bad bacteria, let's say you get a bacteria in some area of your body, and your neutrophils, your white blood cells, go after the bacteria. They surround them and they blitz them with chemicals that will kill them. And they use peroxides, and they probably use ozonides too, ozones, to do it. So to the body, it's a known thing.
Yeah.
It isn't a foreign thing.
Right. That's so cool.
I think that the body's acceptance of known things is very high.
Yes.
If you're sticking a chemical, an antibiotic, or a chemical antiviral, these are foreign. They kill everything. Yes. They can damage everything.
Oh, I've never even thought of it that way.
Whereas ozone is very safe. Other than breathing it, you can breathe it if you put it through water or olive oil or something, but otherwise the rest of the tissues accept it very well. Yeah. And it doesn't cause any harm.
That's really cool. I never even thought of it like that.
Another concern that we get a lot from people is, wait, isn't ozone a measure of pollution in the air? So if ozone is a pollutant, why are we wanting to put it all over ourselves?
Well, it's not really a pollutant. It actually helps with pollution, because if you take the ozone layer, actually it's a protectant. Like this ozone layer is maintained by the lightning strikes around the planet, which occur, hundreds of times per second. And it builds up this ozone layer, which filters UV light. Like above Australia, the ozone layer is thin, and the risk of burning there and sun radiation poisoning is much higher. So it's really not a a harmful thing to us as long as the dose isn't too much and as long as it's delivered in the right place. If you go in a room that's had an ozone machine on, an ozone air machine on, in a high degree and you breathe it, it will cause irritation to your lungs. So in that sense, it's bad, but the rest of the tissue is accepted. Mm-hmm. And it's used in swimming pools for a disinfectant. It's used for water disinfection. Yep. It really is not a damaging or a dangerous chemical.
I think we are trending in that direction where people are now recognizing that ozone. I don't know if you've noticed this. You probably have, but there's a huge trend where people are now accepting ozone therapy as like a mainstream therapy. And it's getting a lot of attention in the media, especially since COVID, because certain clinics were using it to help their patients handle COVID and recover from COVID. Have you been able to utilize ozone for any, I don't know if you guys do treat people that are coming in with COVID or anything. Have you used ozone to help them with that?
We decided when COVID first started, since 3/4 of our patients come from out of town somewhere, mm-hmm. and they come for serious illness, that we weren't going to treat any COVID, and we were going to screen people very carefully so that people coming to our clinic felt safe. So mm-hmm. I haven't personally used it, but you're right. There's clinical trials going on. There's a hospital in Miami that's doing a clinical trial with ozone. There's a bunch of them in South America. There's a bunch of them mm-hmm. Over in China that are using ozone to help with COVID. And the results I've seen have been very positive, and it makes sense. But I haven't done it myself.
So if someone was diagnosed with COVID, you obviously can't diagnose, or you obviously can't say, hey, this is your protocol, but would you tell them get in a Hocket as soon as possible, as often as possible?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think it's very workable. It's very safe. And, with some other nutrient things, mm-hmm. Some quercetin, some zinc, some vitamin C, these things all complement each other. And make sure that your vitamin D level is, mm-hmm. For sure above 50. We like to keep people between 70 and 90 mm-hmm. because these things make a huge difference, and mm-hmm. they reduce your chance of getting it. And if you got it, they improve your chances of getting better.
Mm-hmm. So you said before you treat a lot of people with Lyme disease. Have you found, because when we used to treat people with Lyme, we used the combination of ozone and hyperbaric. And so have you found that transdermal ozone is strong enough just to treat Lyme, or would you recommend like IV ozone, or like what are some things that you would recommend to people that have Lyme? One, go out to your clinic and do treatments. But if they can't do that, what are your recommendations as far as ozone goes? Is transdermal strong enough? Do they need to do IV? Do they need to do it rectally? How intense do they need to get with these ozone protocols?
Well, the people that I'm seeing are usually, they've been sick for a long time, and they often have a lot of other things. They have neurological problems. They have a lot of GI problems. They may have, a lot of inflammatory things in their joints and sometimes in their heart and their lungs. Mm-hmm. So we are using both. We usually do 3 IV ozones a week mm-hmm. with a couple of Hockets a week. We have 3 hyperbaric spaces right now. So we usually do hyperbaric on them also.
That's awesome.
And so, our average patient has been to 13 doctors. Mm-hmm. About 85% of those patients through our program, it usually lasts somewhere between 2 and 4 months, they get better.
That's amazing.
So I think, there's herbs and there's nutrition and there's gut restoration. We're mm-hmm. doing everything, mm-hmm. but I think their chance of getting better are very high.
Yes. I love that I didn't realize you guys had hyperbarics too. Did you know that, Tris?
Yeah.
I didn't know that, because when we were doing Hocket with hyperbaric, our results were amazing with Lyme. They were so, so amazing. Currently our hyperbarics have been shut down, but we are working with the government right now to get them reopened, and we're negotiating back and forth because they're like, you're not medical doctors. And we were like, well, people that are coming in are getting prescriptions from doctors. So that's the back and forth that we're going with right now. But man, combining ozone and hyperbaric was like one of the most powerful things I saw in our clinic at the time, because like just oxygen therapies in general to help, our bodies, they thrive off of oxygen. There's the saying, you can live without food for like 2 weeks. You can live without water for 2 days, but you can't even like go without oxygen for like 2 to 5 minutes, right? Or something like that. Like oxygen is a nutrient, and it's so important, and it's so healing too. And so when we combine these therapies that like hyperdose you on oxygen. You know, you were saying with ozone, it helps stimulate mitochondrial function. Well, we need oxygen for mitochondrial function, right? Like everything goes back to the optimization of oxygen and energy to heal the body, to have the body heal itself, to have these cells heal themselves, right? That's why these therapies are so, so powerful.
Yeah, and they turn on stem cells too, so you get a rejuvenation.
Yes.
You know, you don't just get healing of existing tissue, but you get rejuvenation where the body then is turning on new younger cells.
Yes.
To make the function better.
I loved your story in the beginning where you, like I said, you were this very cerebral doctor and you're like, oh, all of this stuff is so hokey. Going from such a medical background to where you are now, you know, it just gives so much weight that a very educated person, you know, this is all scientific. This is all science. This isn't hokey. There's reasons for why the body interacts with these therapies the way they do. Who was the biologist or the biochemist that you mentioned that changed you? What was his name?
His name is Jeffrey Bland.
Jeffrey Bland. What was it about him? What were the conversations around what he was talking about? What was it that changed your opinions on this world of alternative healing?
Well, it's really what you said. I mean, he's a science guy. He's a biochemist. He worked with Linus Pauling. You know, he was able to take the biochemistry, which was an accepted, known to me, like this is science, this is true, this is real.
Yeah.
And then look at a problem of someone who had a symptom of they had high blood pressure, or they had heart disease, or they had diabetes. And say, okay, we have an altered biochemistry here.
Yes.
And then what altered that biochemistry? Well, there's a toxic influence and there's a deficiency influence. And then he said, well, we put together this mixture. He was originally working with with Metagenics. And he said, well, we have these powders, and you could take this powder and you can take guys who, you know, they weighed this much and their cholesterol was this much and their body fat was this much. And then we put them on this program, a nutritional program, for 3 months. And then we measured all this stuff. And then look what happened to them.
Yeah.
You know, their body fat went down, their energy went up, their, you know, blood pressure went down.
Yeah.
I was like, well, that's really interesting.
And very scientific.
And very scientific. Yeah. And I think, you know, occasionally I've been asked, there's a local medical school where I am, with a residency program, and where I would you come talk to the residents about what you do? So the last time I did it, I went in there and I talked to them about kind of what our approach, like what is really wrong with someone that presents to you with a symptom.
Right.
And when you use the medication that you learned how to use, did you really make an impactful difference in the guy's overall biology and health,
right,
so that they got better? Like your person with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or osteoporosis, they weren't born that way. It's not a genetic disease.
Yep.
But they've had this condition for 5 years. So there must have been some change between the time when they were fine to the time when they weren't fine.
My mom always calls it kitchenetics. It's not genetics, it's kitchenetics, right? It's what happened in the kitchen or at McDonald's that turned that gene on.
So what happened with them? So what if we measured these things and we could show, you know, your balance of omega-6 to omega-3 fats is 24-1, and it should be 3-1.
Right.
Your magnesium level should be this and it's that. Your zinc should be this and it's that. You're missing all these amino acids.
Exactly.
What if we approach the problem? Now, so if you have life-threatening hypertension, go on the medication.
Yeah.
But if we see it as a Band-Aid that is temporary till we can get the body to heal, maybe we could get the body to heal.
Right.
And then if we approach it in that way, it reduces to this simplicity of there are things in the body that shouldn't be there, and there are things missing from the body that should be there. And if you can figure out what those things are and restore them, then the physiology gets back to the way it's supposed to be. And the guy doesn't need his medicines anymore. He's not depressed and tired and in pain.
Right.
And he looks at you like, wow, I feel 20 years younger. And you have me on some supplements, and we did some ozone, and we did some hyperbaric oxygen or pulse magnetic field, or, we did a bunch of stuff, and we're able to restore the physiology back to where he should be.
I love it.
And he was good. So I brought this model to this group of residents, and I gave them a bunch of examples of how we had done that with people, and that they no longer needed the pharmaceuticals and the problems that came from the pharmaceuticals that ultimately everyone who takes them suffers from, the side effects. And the senior guy in the back of the room, the instructor, their sort of preceptor, he raised his hand to me and he said, "I've got a question, or I have a confession." So I said, "Okay, what is it?" And he said, "After listening to you, it seems like what I learned and what I've been teaching for the last 20 years is completely backwards."
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes.
It's a rough moment, though.
Said,
right?
Yeah, it's true.
So
now, that doesn't mean that modern medicine is all bad, or that there aren't life-saving treatments that could help someone bail them out. They're wonderful. You're in the middle of a heart attack, go to a good hospital.
Please, yes.
And get fixed, or get your appendix out, or, if you need a C-section, get one.
Exactly.
But if you have what ails most people, high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity, no energy, can't sleep, anxious, depressed, osteoporosis. I mean, these are the things that ruin people's lives. The medications just don't fix those things, and they never will.
Right. So here's
the guys that's.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
What's wrong.
So here's my question. Where did we go wrong? Because, you've had your one foot in each door, and why are doctors not learning this in medical school? Because I feel like our nation, we've used more medications than ever in the history of America, and we're the sickest we have ever been. And I'm curious as to why medical doctors are not picking up on this. Why are they not seeing the disconnect?
It's getting better. I mean, we were the second sort of integrative medicine clinic in our area, and now there's 6.
Amazing. Wow. Okay, good.
So people are catching on, and these guys are smart. They're good doctors, and they've seen the light, and they want to do it. So that's a good thing.
That's really great.
It's also interesting.
Medical school curriculums are, they're financed by pharmaceuticals.
Exactly.
And so you're going to get their stuff. And I've had a lot of people come into me, because I have people come and, they'll spend a day or two with me and shadow me. And they said, I'd really love to go to medical school, but I'm going to get brainwashed for 4 years.
Yes.
And then I'm going to be in a residency program for 2 or 3 years. And, I said, look, there isn't any other way to do it, really. Like in Florida, some of the naturopathic medical schools are really good. And there are states that have naturopathic medical training where they have licenses where they can do everything that I'm talking about. But like in Florida, there is no naturopathic medical board. There was one that got disbanded, and you can't practice it. So if you want to work in this medical area and give people these treatments, you kind of have to just grit your teeth.
Yeah.
A lot of the first couple of years of medical school are basic science, and it's all valid. It's good biochemistry.
Yeah.
And the second 2 years, usually you're watching other people, or you're participating yourselves in sort of what the modern treatment regimen is in hospitals or clinics. But I think even as an education, you learn what not to do.
Yeah.
And you learn what you learn the pharmaceutical part of medicine, and sometimes it can help you or bail you out. And it's better to know it than it is to not know it or pretend that there isn't any benefit to it, because neither of those are really true.
Right. We interviewed Dr. Anna Kabeka a couple of weeks ago, and I love how she hinted that, medical schools are funded by pharmaceutical companies, and there is a slight conflict of interest there, and I think as, patients, as people that are sick, we need to recognize that. And, yes, there is some benefit to medicine, but we also need to recognize that there is a business aspect of this too. And to, it's okay to doctor shop and find a doctor that matches your philosophies. I always say, we are not doctors. Tristan and I, we're not your doctors. Don't replace your doctor with us, but find a doctor to be on your team. We can be on your team too, but find someone who speaks your language and will help you heal the way that you need and listens to you and doesn't just put you in a box, right? Meets with you for 5 minutes and puts you on like Prozac or something. And so, because, you know, it's like you said, things are changing, but for us as the patients, sometimes it's not fast enough, and it's okay to fire the doctors that don't work for us. You know what I mean? Or work with us.
100%.
Right.
100%.
Okay.
I mean, I think that what you said is really important. You have to interview or look around and find somebody who's going to first look at, you know, how do you get helped best, and not saddle you with some idea that you're stuck forever and you can't ever get better and there isn't anything to do about it, and take my drug or I won't see you.
Right.
I mean, I think there are a lot of doctors that do that, and that's not right. And it's not good medicine.
No, it's not.
You know, there's organizations out, you know, the American Academy of Ozone Therapy, or American College for Advancement of Medicine, or the American College of Environmental Medicine. These are all groups of medical doctors and chiropractors and naturopaths and nutritionists who have at least one thing in common, that there is another way to do this that's probably better and that can help no matter what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
And that you go to these resources for looking for a solution to your problem if it's not, you know, if you're not in the middle of a dire emergency.
Right. Exactly. I love that. In the middle of a dire emergency. Exactly. That's where medicine serves us the best, right? Your arm's cut off, go to the hospital, right? Right. Ozone therapy is something you guys use in your clinic. What are some of your other most favorite treatments that you guys are using? And who is like your perfect, like, people that are seeking out your clinic? Are those that have chronic issues, Lyme? What is your target market when it comes to your clinic?
It's sort of they all have chronic illness. They may be mold toxic, or they've got an autoimmune disease. They've got lupus or rheumatoid arthritis or Sjogren's, something like that.
Oh man, I would love
tons of.
Sorry, I was going to say, I would love to do a podcast with you on mold toxicity sometime, because that's a growing area of concern that people are recognizing, and nobody knows how to treat it. Modern medicine has no idea what to do with this, right? Because it's all these bizarre symptoms that, do you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
You know,
oh yeah. I mean, 60% of the public buildings are mold toxic, and people live and work. Yesterday, I was in Crate and Barrel. My wife and I were shopping for a couch. And when I got to the doorway, I could smell the Stachybotrys mold coming out of that thing that was so strong. Now, we had masks on, because you're not allowed to go in there without a mask. Yeah. And there was a particular couch that she wanted to look at, so we walked in there. But after about 5 minutes, I was like, I got to get out of here. I don't know how these people have been working here. And I said to the saleswoman, I said, "Can't you smell the mold in here?" She says, "No, I don't notice anything."
Oh man.
Well, it's killing you. Yeah, it's terrible.
It's so toxic.
So toxic. So we do a lot of cancer too. I mean, most of the people, unfortunately, come to us after they've been through the ringer on regular therapies. But
do you guys have some pretty amazing outcomes with your cancer patients?
We do.
That's
I mean,
awesome.
it's way better than what they were going through.
Yes.
So, I mean, cancer is a very difficult disease, but we have approaches to it which are really helpful and which extend people's life and extend their quality of life. So this is a fascinating area for me, just because the biochemistry of cancer is so interesting.
Yeah.
We see lots of Lyme patients from all over the place. They come from, Honolulu and Scandinavia and Canada and Los Angeles. So we're really good at Lyme.
So awesome.
We're doing a lot of neurological disease, people with premature dementia or Parkinson's. We get massive results with Parkinson's disease.
Amazing.
As long as they're not, 3 breaths before they're dead.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
And people with neuropathies, they get numb hands or weakness. There's a lot of change you can make in those people that can really help them. So
that's so awesome.
Those are things that most people go into sort of an apathetic mode because they've utilized their doctor to the extent that he's been able to help them.
Yeah.
And they're given the idea that if they tried anything else, they would be stupid.
Yeah. Yes.
Really, that's the wrong attitude.
So
because
wrong.
These guys, a lot of them can get a lot better And it doesn't take that long. We're not talking about a 5-year program.
No.
We usually see very big changes in 2 to 4 months.
Yeah. Yep. And how important would you say nutrition is in that? Because for me, nutrition is vital, right? It's so important to change the lifestyle, to change the fuel and the chemistry that you're putting in your body. Is nutrition a massive part of what you guys utilize as well?
It's a massive part, nutrition and supplementation. And then the other thing, which is very rarely looked for by regular medicine or dentistry, is that many people have toxic stuff going on in their mouth. And unless you fix their, you get rid of their root canal teeth and their cavitations and their bad gums and their, their mercury they will not get better.
Yep.
So I have a group of dentists that I refer to who are really up on this stuff, and it makes a huge difference.
Amazing.
And it's generally ignored in regular medicine and regular dentistry.
Right, right. Well, oh my gosh, I almost want to fly out to your clinic and just do all the things because it's just so cool. And I feel like, do you ever train doctors? Do you ever do trainings and seminars? How do people find you? How do they get trained by you? How do they find your books and because you have your own product lines, you have your own supplements, your proteins. Tell all of our listeners how they can find you, what other things you do and sell, books that you have written, because how many books have you written? Just one or two?
Just one, lots of articles. I lecture a lot at meetings like right now, it's called Best Answer for Cancer. There are national meetings going on now, virtual. Amazing. If you go to bestanswerforcancer.org, I'm actually hosting a Q&A session today between 5 and 6:30, but it's open to the public. If you have cancer or you have family members that have cancer and you want to see how cancer is done in a completely different way that is humane treatment, I jump on that meeting. It's today and tomorrow. American Academy of Ozone Therapy has a very good website and a great meeting. I usually speak at that. So I'm speaking a lot. I occasionally have residents come in to shadow me, but I don't usually do direct training that way. It's usually from other things. BodyHealth.com is our nutrition company, just BodyHealth.com. There's tons of YouTube videos and information on the products that we manufacture. Yeah. And your clinic's web.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, in your clinic, it's the LifeWorks
Wellness Center.
LifeWorks Wellness Center. Okay.
LifeWorksWellnessCenter.com. There's tons of videos on there and interviews and articles. And we do a newsletter, and you can sign up for the newsletter on there. That's, we have, 60 or 80,000 people that get that every week.
Amazing.
So I'm all about information and getting as much truth as I know out to people so that they can utilize it and help themselves and their friends.
Amazing.
Speaking of that, you have a book that you have published recently, and it's called The Search for the Perfect Protein. Is that right?
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about what that book is about and what people need to know about protein.
Okay. Yeah, Search for the Perfect Protein. It's on Amazon available. If you go to bodyhealth.com, you can actually download the PDF free.
Cool.
The book is one of the things that I never learned in medical school in the brief nutrition I had was about proteins and amino acids and how they work and how important they were. So I'm doing Ironman triathlons, and this is about 10 or 12 years ago, and I pulled a hamstring muscle in my training. And I did everything I could think of to rehab it. I did massage and chiropractor and injections and ultrasound. I could get anything I wanted, and I did it. And it didn't really give me a fully healed muscle where I could push it hard and not worry that I was going to tear it more.
Right.
And I had a friend say, hey, try these. And it was an amino acid mixture. And I tried taking them. And after about 6 weeks, my leg dull pain went away. I went out to the track. I tried pushing it. It was fine. And it healed.
Mm-hmm.
So I got really interested in amino acids and what they do and how they work and how uneducated I was.
Mm-hmm.
And I started in my clinic to measure amino acid blood levels in everyone that I saw.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was seeing some high-end athletes and then all these other people who are sick.
Yeah.
And virtually all of them had major deficiencies in their amino acid levels in their blood.
Yeah.
Now, amino acids, for the people who aren't familiar with this, there's 22 of them in the body. They act like an alphabet. So you can put them together in different sequences and different combinations, and you can get different proteins, because proteins are made out of amino acids.
Yeah.
And some proteins have 75 or 80 amino acids, like growth hormone or insulin.
Mm-hmm.
And some proteins have thousands, like the muscle protein actin has 5,600 amino acids in one muscle fiber. So they can be very complicated or very simple.
Yeah.
And then if you have deficiencies of amino acids, your body is not going to be able to make new amino acids or make new proteins, heal proteins, make enzymes, make bone, make neurotransmitters as good as if you had the right amount.
Right.
And I found that was what my problem was. I didn't have enough to keep up with. I'm exercising 20 hours a week and I'm working 50 hours a week, and the schedule was just out the top, and there was too much demand and not enough where my body was able to heal it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then when I added the amino acid, they healed. Wow. So after years and years of following people, and measuring these levels, what I found that most people aren't eating, either they're not eating the right combination of foods to get the amino acids that they need, but virtually 100% of people that we see in the clinic have a problem with digestion and absorption. They've got leaky gut, they've got not enough stomach acid, they don't have enough enzymes, and you get this sort of catch-22 where you can't fix it because you don't have the thing to fix it, and then it gets worse because you can't fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started giving people doses of these essential amino acids. The product is called Perfect Amino. I named it Perfect Amino because it's a perfect combination of amino acids the body can utilize. And the book is about that, and it's very practical. It's not a scientific book, really. It's a very practical book that anyone could read on getting educated on how does your body work and how do amino acids play into that, and what can you do to help yourself in this area.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
So,
man, you speak your language. All of that. I'm just like, yes, preach, because I just did a poll on Instagram asking like how many people have digestive issues. And I think so far it's 89% of people that voted have digestive issues. Like almost everyone has digestive issues. And it's because of our lifestyles and the processed foods and the antibiotics and the inflammatory stuff that we eat and the sprays that we're exposed to, and the glyphosate and I always say, if you don't digest, if you're not digesting, you're not absorbing. And if you're not absorbing, you're not healing, so it's great that you've come up with a product that can kind of like help speed up that process of that healing so that they can absorb and digest optimally again. So that's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, the gut, there's this thing in the body called protein turnover, where tissues get stressed or injured and they have to be repaired or grow new ones. And so one of the most important areas of protein turnover are the inner lining of your intestine.
Yes, exactly. Doesn't it turn over every 2 to 3 days?
If you don't have enough amino acids, your gut turnover should be like every 3 or 4 days. You get a new lining.
Right.
If there's deficiencies, if you don't have enough, it might be every 7 or 8 days or 9 or 10 days.
Right.
And when the gut has this injury, it leaks.
Yes.
And when it leaks, it lets things in you that shouldn't go in you.
Exactly.
So then the rest of the system sees the bad bacteria and funguses and parasites and toxins that should be screened by healthy gut. And if you just had some amino acids, you could then heal your gut and get your protein turnover where it should be.
Exactly.
You know, someone works out and they work out hard and then they can't lift for another week.
Right.
It's a problem in protein turnover.
Yes.
I can tell you doing Ironman training, when I'm dosing the amino acids properly with the rest of my nutrition, the soreness the next day is very little.
Yes.
Like you can actually recover faster. And so we have a lot of pro athletes that use this product because it just makes them stronger faster.
Amazing. And just to give listeners kind of like a reference to how fast that turnover is in your gut, your skin turns over every 30 days. So, you know, we think that our skin is a fast regenerative organ, but our gut is even faster than that. And that's how important it is. I always say the gut is the root system to the tree. So if the root system is sick, the rest of the tree is sick, right? If it's dying, if it's not repairing, the rest of the tree is dying and not repairing, and then you don't produce good fruit. And so it's so important that we are getting, like, we're absorbing those proteins, we're getting those proteins, and we're helping our guts heal so that the rest of our tree system can be okay too. So Dr. Minkoff, thank you so much. Is there anything else that you want to ask him, Tris?
No, but I do want to highly recommend that people go check out bodyhealth.com. Yeah. See some of these perfect amino products they've got. They're not your typical protein powders. They are very, you can tell just by looking at the label that they have been very specifically formulated to achieve a very specific outcome. So there's also a 20% off coupon when you get to the website. So check that out too. Exactly.
Dr. Minkoff, thank you so much for your time, for your knowledge. I'm so grateful for doctors like you that think out of the box and, you know, marry medicine to alternative holistic approaches. And with your knowledge and your experience, you are helping save so many lives and helping people live healthier, more fulfilled lives by helping their bodies heal. So thank you for your knowledge and your expertise and sharing that with the world, because we absolutely need that. I love hearing from doctors that yes, this work is important and yes, people should pursue it because alternative means to healing can be done. So thank you again.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. And thanks for what you guys are doing, because you get this information out to thousands and thousands of people. And that's how we changed. You know, we're evolving a planet in a more sane direction.
That's
and
so
the
true.
more of us that put our shoulder to this wheel, we can change things and we can make things better.
Yes, so much. Yes. Thank you so much. And, you know, and as parents, because a lot of parents listen to this podcast, like we're changing the world for our children, because I've said this in so many episodes too, but our kids are the sickest they've ever been. Like us is like our generation, you know, people in our 30s and 40s, we are expected to outlive our parents, you know, because of the aid of medicine, but our children are not expected to outlive us, because their health that they're inheriting and the planet that they're inheriting is very toxic for them. And so with your message and with podcasts like this and people wanting to expand their nutritional knowledge, you know, maybe we can turn that around for our children and not have them be so sick, not have them have so many allergies. Because I mean, we're seeing 8-year-olds with digestive issues, you know, 12-year-olds with like, you know, doctors putting them on PPIs, and it's just insane. It's just insane what our children are going through now. And it needs to, like, something needs to change. And so thank you, listeners, for listening and wanting to help us perpetuate this message. Thank you, Dr. Minkoff, for educating us today and educating other doctors like you and helping change the world. We love that and we appreciate it so much.
Absolutely.
You're welcome. And you guys are gutsy and keep it going.
Thank you so much. Until next time, you guys.
See y'all later.